Welcome back to Golf Training. The hips lead the way in the golf swing. If you want that fluid swing, that effortless swing that creates easy power, you need your hips to lead the way. It's so important. Now, there are a couple of components to that. For your hips to lead the way in the golf swing, they need to rotate clearly, but you need internal rotation. So on the backswing, your rear hip internally rotates. That's internal rotation. On the downswing, your front hip internally rotates. So that's what internal rotation is. Now, if you don't have that capacity in your hips, you're going to be stuck square to the ball, relatively speaking. Okay, maybe you have a little bit of movement, but roughly you're square to the ball. Now, if you're square to the ball at impact, there's no way to continue the rotational energy. So you're going to end up casting and flipping at the impact point, right? Because if you can't turn here, first of all, you can't load your backswing correctly. So if you're kind of stuck here, you're going to be using a lot of wrist to get an elbow to get your club back. And as you come down, if you can't create this rotation here, there's no way to get the club head back with any speed without some kind of flipping and casting motion. So creating internal rotation capacity in your hips is so important for your hips to lead the way. The second thing is, it has less to do with your hips and more to do with your upper body. You need this forward arm to be stuck to your chest, because for your hips to lead the way, you want to have a catapult effect. So you want this forward arm to be stuck to your chest as you're driving through impact. And that's what really creates a catapult effect that creates that easy power, because as you are creating your downswing, your hands hesitate. They hesitate a beat back. So as you're creating your downswing, this arm is stuck to your chest. You are going into your forward rotation, but these hands stay back. And that's going to create that leg that you want. Now, as you come through impact, this forward arm is still stuck to your chest. And then as you come into impact and release, all that energy lets the forward arm release and kind of catapult off your chest. Those are two pretty important components for your hips to lead the way. But if you don't have that internal rotation, it's really tough to get that done. So in this video, we're going to help you improve the internal rotation in your hips. So let's get started. How do we get some release into stiff and tight adductors? The adductors are the muscles on the interior of your thigh. Well, one way we can do it is with, let's say, a pole or a barbell, anything that you can use to roll. So I'm going to get into this kind of a Z position or a lightning bolt position here. I'm going to place the roller somewhere along the inside of my leg. And depending on how tender and tight you are there, I'm going to just put some pressure and roll. And I'm going to guess that a lot of you guys might feel that this is pretty tender. I mean, it's pretty tender on me too. You could actually use a barbell to do this. But I think that most of us will find that just getting some of this pretty moderate pressure on the inside of your leg, on these adductors, is going to help. Now, if you want to increase the pressure, you can use your other leg. Now, what we can do is find a trigger point. So I have one right there. And I can just breathe into this position. So I'm going to take a deep breath in and release. And try to let the pressure of this pole sink into that trigger point. So deep breath in and release. So I'm breathing in and out through my nose. The other way to do it is to roll back and forth. Now while I'm doing this, obviously I'm talking to you, but you should be breathing. So I'm just breathing in and out through my nose. Deep diaphragmatic breathing in and out through your nose sends a relaxing signal to your neurological system that these positions aren't a threat. Now you want to do that because when your brain senses a threat or perceives a threat, it's going to shut things down and make things tighter. So when you're mobilizing, that's going to be counterproductive. You want to breathe, relax, and mobilize. In this case, we're just getting some release into these muscles, these stiff and tight muscles. Okay, so that's pretty simple, and that's a way to get some release into some stiff and tight adductors. In this video, we're going to work on releasing some of the tension and the stiffness of the muscles on the side of your hip. That's important to improve rotation and to improve overall hip function. The reason is there's a muscle structure on the side of your hip that's attached to your IT band. And then that IT band runs along the side of your leg and is attached to the outside of your knee, just beneath your knee into your shin. So it's attached here and here. Now the IT band really isn't a band. The band you think of as something that can stretch. It's more like an IT strap. The IT band does not stretch. So if this is tight and you have a connection down beneath your knee, so it's crossing the knee joint, if this is tight, when you rotate, obviously this is going to be more difficult to rotate because this is tight and it's holding back this rotation. It's also going to create some pain here because now it's pulling on the insertion because this is tight, so it's pulling that. As you rotate more, it creates even more tension and you can get lateral knee pain right over there. So it's important to begin to release some of the stiffness and tightness on your lateral hip to improve hip function and to improve your rotation. So we're going to either use a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball and work and release the muscles on the side of your hip from the front here, right in there, right along this area, right in here. So I'm going to start with the lacrosse ball. I don't recommend you start with this because it's pretty hard. I would start with a tennis ball. So you're going to start with a ball of your choice, a little bigger if you want. And I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to work the muscles all around this area. And the first way I'm going to do it is just breathe into this position. So let me place the ball right here. And now I'm going to get in a comfortable position. I'm going to flex my legs. So now that ball is kind of towards the front of my hip. And first thing I'm going to do is just breathe into it. So I'm going to take a deep breath in through my nose and release. I'm just letting the weight of my body sink into that ball and let the ball do the work. Now the other way you can do this is to roll on it. So I'm going to put the weight of my body on that ball, and I'm just going to move the ball towards the midline of my back, towards the sacrum. I don't have to go too far. I'm not going all the way. I'm just doing little motions. You relax your head. Keep breathing. Now I'm talking to you guys, but you should be breathing. Deep diaphragmatic breaths in and out through your nose. And now once you find another spot that might be tender, you can stay on that spot and take a deep breath. If it's too painful to hold, then raise up a little bit. Use your arm and your shoulder, your legs, and raise up. So I'm raising up, it's taking the pressure off by obviously releasing that position. Now there's more pressure on that ball. To even put more pressure on it, you can tighten up the muscle even more by going into more flexion and rolling across your hip like this. So now I'm on the front side of that hip, and I'm just going to Do the same thing. Take a deep breath in and release. So just again, so you see where I am, I started here and I'm working all around here. So getting the muscles on the lateral side of your hip to be more flexible and pliable is important for rotation. In this video, I'll demonstrate the hip internal rotation mobility technique. Now, internal rotation is very important in the golf swing. It happens on both sides of the swing, on the downswing and in the backswing. On this side, this is hip internal rotation. So we're going to improve that in this drill. So from the front, what we're going to do is I'm going to kick this leg out. And by the way, I wanted to mention that we got this mobility drill from the Ready State and Kelly Starrett. So from the front view, we're going to kick this leg out. So if this is a square here, I'm square to this point, I'm pushing this foot out, and that's putting this hip into internal rotation. Now I'm going to block this hip. Now I don't want to go down into this position like that. What I want to do is press my knee into the ground, put force into the ground, and turn into it. So it's not a real big motion. I'm not getting this kind of motion here. I'm just putting force into the ground. My knee is being pressed into the ground. I'm blocking this side with this foot, and I'm pressing into the ground and turning into the hip. It's not a real big motion now. I'm pressing into the ground and turning into the hip. Pressing into the ground, turning into the hip, and I can sink back a little bit, but you're going to feel pretty restricted here. It's going to feel like quickly like you can't go any further. That's okay. You don't want to force this, okay? I'm pressing into the ground with my knee, and I'm rotating, and I'm just dropping back a little bit. You're thinking about pushing your femur, your thigh bone, up through your hip. So press and turn. If you can get a little bit more range of motion, you kick it out a little bit more. Now, I'm going to do it from the side. I'll do it on this side now. So, kicking this foot out. I'm blocking it with this foot. I'm pressing this knee into the ground, so the force is going this way. Pressing into the ground, blocking this foot, and I'm turning into it. Pressing and turning. You should be breathing. Inhale and exhale through your nose. I'm sinking back just a little bit. If you can get some more range of motion as you do this, which you probably will be able to, and you're going to feel blocked right away. It's going to feel like you can't really go anymore, and that's okay. You don't want to force this. Just begin to get some easy motion. Force and push. That's a nice way to begin to improve the internal rotation in your hips. So in this video, we're going to work on getting some hip internal rotation. An easy way to start is do some nice easy rocking, going from left to right. So you get onto the all-four position, you can rock back, and then rock into the right side. So I'm rocking into this side. Look down, you look up, and then you rock into that side. Now, if you can't go all the way back, go as far as you can. If that's all you can go, that's fine. You could go from the right side to the left side, rock down, rock to the right, or you could just go from one side to the other. It's a nice, easy way to begin to get some movement in your hip capsule. So we want internal rotation in our hips. But it's not just internal rotation. We want to put some force on it because the golf swing is a high velocity, high force rotation. So in order to do that, we can use pulleys to help us get some force into the internal rotation that we've created. Now, this is a level 1 exercise in our pulley rotational program. So I'm going to grab the pulley, and with one arm, I'm going to pull the pulley to my chest, and I'm just going to turn on my hip. Pull it to my chest, and I'm just turning on my hip. So I'll do it from this side. Pull it to the chest. Now I'm turning on my hip. So now I'm creating some force into this hip, because obviously there's some tension on this band. And my hip has to rotate under tension. So that's a level 1 exercise in our pulley rotational program. If you found that helpful, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We'd really appreciate it. And don't forget to check out other videos on the channel to help you improve your movement quality, improve your golf swing, and keep that useful fluid swing while staying injury-free.